Let me ask you a question. What if nobody claps for you? What if nobody reposts? Nobody calls to check in? What if the people you thought would walk this journey with you don't show up? Can you still show up? Can you still win? Can you still carry the vision even if you're the only one who believes in it? Because some of y'all waiting for confirmation, waiting for validation, waiting for the world to say you got this, but what if the world never does? Listen to me. The assignment is too big to wait for company. You better learn how to walk alone. See, when you were born, you didn't come out with an entourage. You didn't come out with a cheerleading squad. You came out with purpose, with destiny, with a divine call over your life. And that call don't require company. It requires commitment. You want to know why you feel so frustrated, so started? Because you're still looking back, still checking who's following, who's liking, who's coming. Let me tell you, not everybody's built for where you're going. You keep trying to drag people into a season God never assigned them to. You keep trying to explain your mission to folks who are never meant to understand it. Let them go. Yeah, I said it. Let them go. Because if they could have helped you get there, you'd already be there. Sometimes the only way to rise is to release. You're so busy holding on to the familiar that you're missing the supernatural. You keep calling it loyalty. I call it disobedience. You keep calling it love. I call it delay. Stop needing so much. You don't need the room to agree with you. You don't need everyone to believe. All you need is the word, the vision, and the discipline to walk it out. Even if nobody walks with you. Because let me tell you something. Emotional attachment is the enemy of elevation. You want to fly, but you're still tied to dead weight. You want clarity, but you're clouded by people's opinions. You want to win, but you're still checking in with people who've already quit. Detached spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're not controlled. See, some of you are so entangled in other people's drama, dysfunction, and distraction that you've lost your rhythm. You've lost your focus. But when you detach, when you unplug from everything that drains you, now you can hear, now you can build, now you can breathe again. Do it alone. Do it without the likes. Do it without the phone calls. Do it without the support. Do it when they lie on you. Do it when they ghost you. Do it when they don't believe in you. Do it because you were called. And when you start moving like that, let me tell you what happens. The favor follows the obedience. The resources follow the discipline. The right people show up after you stop waiting on the wrong ones. You don't need a crowd. You need clarity. You don't need hype. You need conviction. You don't need them to carry you. You need God to guide you. So the next time you feel like quitting because you're alone, remember, solitude is where the greats are born. David was in the field alone. Joseph was in the prison alone. Jesus went to the mountain alone. It's in the alone that greatness is forged. So stop begging for company in a season designed for consecration. Stop explaining what was only meant to be executed. Stop apologizing for your discipline, your focus, your grind. Walk like you were sent. Move like you've already won. Operate like you're not waiting on nobody because you're not. Do it alone. And watch what happens when heaven sees you moving in obedience, not approval. Let me know if you'd like a second version with music, timing cues, shorter cuts for reels, or a transcript formatted for video voiceover. Isolation is preparation, not punishment. It's in the quiet, in the stillness, in the moments where it feels like nobody sees you that the real shaping happens. Most people mistake being alone as rejection, as some kind of cosmic exile, but it's actually divine positioning. When God is getting ready to do something significant in your life, he doesn't start with the crowd. He starts with you alone. Because in isolation, distractions are removed. The noise is gone. The need for approval is broken. And that's where he can finally get your full attention. See, preparation can't happen in the middle of the stage. It doesn't happen with people clapping for you, validating you, or cheering you on. Preparation happens in obscurity. It happens when no one is watching, when no one is calling your name, when no one is asking for your opinion. That's where your character is built. That's where your discipline is tested. That's where your identity is clarified. Not in who they say you are, but in who you know you are when nobody's looking. The wilderness is not a waste of time. It's divine training ground. Every champion has to go through it. Every leader, every warrior, every visionary has a season of being unseen. Not because they're not worthy, but because they're being prepared for something that can't be rushed. It's in the dark room where the image is developed. You can't skip it. You can't bypass it. If you try to emerge too early, you'll forfeit the depth, the strength, and the roots that only isolation can build. You got to learn to stop resenting the silence. Stop calling it punishment when it's really process. Stop thinking God forgot about you when he's really focused on you. The people who make the most noise are not the most powerful. The most powerful are the ones who were forged in silence, who learned how to pray when no one else heard, who learned how to stay consistent when no one was watching, who learned how to keep showing up when no one clapped. If you only thrive when people affirm you, you'll crumble when they ignore you. But when you learn how to thrive alone, you become unshakable because your roots go deep, because you're not living off applause. You're living off assignment. The ones who win long term are not the ones who showed up loud. They're the ones who showed up ready. And readiness only comes through preparation. And preparation only comes through isolation. So if you're in a season where it feels like everybody left, where it feels like no doors are opening, where it feels like you're doing the right thing and still getting overlooked, don't despise it, embrace it. That's not rejection. That's not punishment. That's God saying, I need to talk to you before I reveal you. I need to shape you before I send you. I need to strip away everything you depended on so you'll know where your strength really comes from. You're not being left behind. You're being equipped. Detachment is alignment with purpose. When you learn to emotionally detach from outcomes, opinions, and people's approval, you begin to walk in a level of clarity that few ever reach. Most people are weighed down not because they're carrying purpose, but because they're entangled in emotional webs that don't serve them. They're too busy trying to please, trying to fit in, trying to keep connections that were meant to be seasonal. But purpose is not about pleasing, it's about positioning. And the deeper your assignment, the more necessary it becomes to detach from anything that distracts or delays. Detachment doesn't mean being heartless, it means being anchored. It's knowing that your value, your calling, your mission isn't up for negotiation. It means you don't allow emotions to override instruction. It means your feelings don't dictate your obedience. When you're truly aligned with purpose, you understand that emotional reactions can't run your life. Revelation does. You move when you're led, not when you're liked. You show up because you're called, not because it feels good. Some people never step into their purpose because they're still emotionally attached to the idea of being liked. They can't handle being misunderstood, so they shrink. They can't handle being talked about, so they stay small. But purpose will cost you comfort. It will cost you popularity. And if you're too attached to how people see you, you'll never walk in who you really are. Detachment allows you to elevate above emotional noise and lock into divine instruction. Think about it. Every time you elevate, you have to let something go. Sometimes it's a person. Sometimes it's an identity you outgrew. Sometimes it's an old mindset that kept you safe, but limited. And that's hard when you're emotionally attached to familiarity. But God didn't call you to familiar. He called you to freedom. And freedom can't live in the same space as emotional bondage. Detachment creates space for discernment. When you're emotionally tangled, you can't hear clearly. Your judgment gets clouded. You start calling distractions opportunities and calling delays protection. But when you detach, you can see through the fog. You stop begging for access and you start walking in authority. You stop trying to fit in and you start owning your space. There are places God wants to take you that require a still heart. You can't be led by spirit and controlled by emotion at the same time. You have to choose. Detachment is choosing spirit over emotion, purpose over preference, vision over validation. It's the sign of maturity. It's the evidence of transformation. It's when you stop asking, how does this make me feel? And start asking, is this aligned with where I'm going? You weren't created to be tossed around by feelings. You were created to be grounded in truth. And when you finally release the emotional baggage, when you finally stop gripping people and outcome so tightly, you give God room to move. You give purpose room to breathe. You become dangerous because now nothing can pull you off track. Not everyone can go where you're going. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, but one of the most freeing once you embrace it. We often want to take everyone with us, friends, family, people who were there in the beginning. We imagine success, purpose, and destiny as a celebration surrounded by familiar faces. But the higher you go, the smaller the circle becomes. The road to destiny is not wide, and not everyone has the endurance, the vision, or the character to walk it with you. It's not personal. It's prophetic. Elevation demands separation, and that doesn't mean you're better than them. It means your assignment is different. It means the weight you're called to carry isn't something everyone is built to help lift. Some people were part of your foundation, not your future. They helped you start, but they can't help you finish. And if you don't recognize the seasonal nature of some relationships, you'll try to drag people into places they're not anointed to survive. Purpose is sacred. Destiny is costly. And the further you walk into it, the more your circle has to be refined. Because where you're going requires focus, requires spiritual maturity, requires the ability to say no to what looks good but isn't aligned. If the people around you don't have that same mindset, they'll distract you. They'll drain you. They'll pull you backward with emotional manipulation, passive aggression, or subtle compromise. Sometimes the weight of carrying people is what's keeping you from flying. You're praying for acceleration, but you're holding hands with people who are anchored in their comfort zones. You're fasting and pushing forward, but still tied to voices that speak fear and limitation. And if you're not careful, their mindset becomes your ceiling. Their doubt becomes your delay. You have to be willing to lose some relationships to gain your assignment. You have to be okay with walking away from what's familiar to embrace what's fruitful. And yes, it'll hurt. Yes, it'll feel like betrayal, but it's not betrayal. It's breakthrough. It's not abandonment. It's advancement. And you're not being arrogant. You're being obedient. You can't soar while trying to carry what was only meant to walk. You can't lead while constantly explaining. You can't reach the next level while negotiating your standards to maintain old connections. Where you're going requires full commitment. Half-hearted people will not survive the journey. And if you keep waiting for everyone to catch up, you'll miss the timing of your own breakthrough. The truth is, some people love the version of you that needed them. But when you grow, when you evolve, when you start to walk in power and clarity, it makes them uncomfortable. So they try to keep you in the box they built for you. But boxes are for storage, not for growth. So let them go. Release them with love, but move forward with power. The future is calling. Destiny is calling. And it's not a group call. It's a personal invitation. Inner strength is revealed in silence. It's not proven in the noise, the performance, or the public applause. Real strength shows up when there's no one to impress, no one watching, no one clapping, and yet you still show up. You still grind. You still stay disciplined. The loudest victories are born in the quietest battles. The ones nobody sees. The ones you fight in your mind, your heart, and your spirit. When everything in you wants to quit, but you choose to rise instead. There's something divine about the silence. Something sacred about being unseen. Because it's in those quiet places where your motives are purified. You're not doing it for attention. You're not doing it for validation. You're doing it because something inside you won't let you stop. You're doing it because you know the assignment is real and the call on your life demands your full commitment even when no one notices. Some people only perform when the spotlight is on them. But strength, real strength, is consistency without applause. It's waking up early when no one's keeping score. It's working late when no one's giving out trophies. It's being excellent when mediocrity would be easier. When shortcuts are available, but you still choose the high road. That's strength, not muscles, not ego, not loud declarations, but silent obedience. Quiet resilience, a heart that refuses to give up. The world rewards noise. But heaven honors silence. The world praises those who shine, but God builds those who are hidden. You got to understand, before the platform, there's preparation. Before the crown, there's the crushing. Before the blessing, there's the breaking. And all that happens in silence. No hashtags, no recognition, just you and God, just you and the grind, just you and the choice to keep showing up. And that's where strength is born, not in the outcome, but in the decision to keep moving without evidence, to trust the process when it looks like nothing is changing, to keep building when no doors are opening, to keep believing even when your environment doesn't reflect your promise. That's not weakness. That's not delusion. That's faith. That's inner power. That's the kind of strength that can't be faked or fabricated. You know you're strong when you don't have to talk about it. When your peace speaks louder than your pride, when your focus is so deep, you don't have time to explain your moves. When you stop announcing and just execute, that's when you've tapped into something real, something unshakable, something that doesn't need an audience. Because in the silence, you find your rhythm. In the silence, you build your foundation. In the silence, you discover who you really are when nothing external affirms it. And when you come out of that silence, you're not coming out empty. You're coming out forged, tested, proven, and ready. That's why silence isn't weakness. It's strength refined. And when you understand that, you stop fearing quiet seasons. You start honoring them because you know that's where power is born. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. That's the truth most people never learn, and because of that, they confuse solitude with suffering. But there's a difference between isolation that breaks you and solitude that builds you. The person who knows how to be alone, truly alone, in silence, in stillness, with no distractions and no dependence, that person is powerful because they've tapped into a source that's deeper than companionship. They've learned to draw strength from within, not from others. They've learned that presence is not the same as purpose. You can be surrounded by people and still feel lost, and you can be completely alone and still feel. See, society teaches you that if you're alone, something's wrong with you. That being alone means you've been rejected, abandoned, or left behind. But purpose doesn't always move in a crowd. In fact, some of the most significant moments in your life would happen when no one else is around. Your greatest breakthroughs won't always have witnesses. Your deepest revelations won't come through noise. They'll come through quiet, through separation, through space. Solitude is not a punishment. It's a preparation. When you're alone, your vision becomes sharper. You begin to hear differently, think differently, move differently. There's no one to impress, no roles to play, no masks to wear. It's just you and the truth. That's when you face what you've been avoiding. That's when you confront your thoughts, your fears, your doubts. And that's when you discover that you're stronger than you thought, wiser than you knew, and more equipped than you believed. Loneliness is what happens when you crave something outside yourself to fill a space within. But when you've cultivated solitude, you don't feel that void anymore. You're not desperate for noise, for approval, for attention. You found something better, peace. You found a rhythm within that doesn't need to be validated externally. And from that place, your decisions become clearer. Your boundaries become stronger. Your time becomes more sacred. People who are afraid to be alone are often the ones who settle the most. Settle for unhealthy relationships, for shallow connections, for toxic cycles, just to avoid that silence. But if you ever learn to sit in that silence long enough, you'll find clarity. You'll find healing. And most importantly, you'll find identity. Because you can't truly know who you are until all the voices fade, until you're no longer reacting to who they want you to be, but responding to who you were created to be. There's a version of you that can only be discovered in solitude. A version that's not diluted by noise, not shaped by trends, not influenced by people's opinions. That version is real. It's raw. It's rooted. And it's powerful. And when you meet that version of you, when you embrace the strength that comes from solitude, you stop fearing being alone. You start craving it. Because you realize that being alone is not empty space. It's sacred space. And that sacred space is where destiny breathes. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It's focus. So many people confuse being detached with being distant, uncaring, or unfeeling. But detachment isn't the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of it. It's choosing not to let your emotions run the show. It's the ability to feel deeply but still move wisely. Because the truth is, if your emotions are leading, then your purpose is following. And that's backwards. Purpose must always lead. Emotion can walk beside it, but it can't be the driver. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet don't react emotionally to everything. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much about staying aligned. They've learned that if you stop to respond to every slight, every betrayal, every opinion, you'll never finish the mission. Emotional detachment says, I see it, I feel it, but I won't be controlled by it. It's the power to remain grounded when everything around you is shaking. It's the discipline to keep building even when you feel discouraged. It's the maturity to keep walking when someone tries to pull you into a drama that has nothing to do with your destiny. This kind of detachment isn't numbness. It's wisdom. It's knowing that not every fight is yours to fight. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every feeling is a signal to stop. If you're ruled by your emotions, then circumstances will always dictate your actions. But when you're focused, when you're clear on who you are and where you're going, then your emotions submit to your mission, not the other way around. Focus requires boundaries, and boundaries require detachment. You got to know when to say, that's not mine to carry. You got to be okay with walking away from conversations, environments, and even people that pull you out of alignment. That's not harsh. That's healthy. You're not cold because you don't allow chaos into your space. You're committed to clarity. And yes, that commitment will cost you. People will call you distant. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being selfish or disconnected. But what they're really saying is, I can't manipulate you anymore. When you detach emotionally, you become a mirror. You stop reacting. And people are forced to face their own dysfunction. You stop playing the role they cast you in, and now they don't know how to handle you. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them adjust. You weren't created to be tangled in emotional bondage. You were created to walk in freedom. And freedom requires focus. Focus on your call. Focus on your growth. Focus on your peace. And when you focus, everything that isn't aligned begins to fall away. And that's okay. Emotional detachment isn't about rejecting love. It's about protecting purpose. It's about guarding your mind and spirit from anything that dilutes your clarity. Because clarity is power. And when you're focused, truly focused on the vision, on the goal, on the assignment, there's nothing more dangerous, more unstoppable, more anointed than that. God removes people to reveal your source. That truth is heavy, but it's holy. We spend so much of our lives attaching our hope, our identity, even our strength to people, friends, mentors, family, partners, believing that without them, we can't go where we're supposed to go. We start thinking they are the reason we made it this far. We say things like, I couldn't have done this without them. And while that may feel true on the surface, sometimes God has to remind you who's really been sustaining you the entire time. There comes a moment in every purpose-driven life where God begins to prune, where he starts subtracting people, opportunities, and attachments that you've come to depend on more than him. It's not because he wants to hurt you, but because he wants to reposition you. He wants to show you that your help never came from man. Your value was never defined by relationships, and your destiny was never in their hands to begin with. He was the source all along. You don't know how much you've leaned on someone until God removes them. And when it happens, the initial reaction is often confusion, heartbreak, maybe even anger. You ask questions like, why would they leave now? Or why would God allow this? But what feels like rejection is often redirection. What feels like abandonment is often acceleration. God is saying, you've been giving credit to people for something I've been doing behind the scenes. It's time you remember who really called you. Who really opened those doors? Who really carried you when everything fell apart? And let's be real. Some of the people you thought were essential were actually distractions in disguise. Some of the relationships you mourned were assignments you had already outgrown. But because you didn't want to let go, God had to intervene. He had to tear it down so he could build something stronger. He had to remove the noise so you could finally hear his voice without the interference. When you cling to the wrong people, you risk missing divine movement. When you idolize the gift over the giver, you get stuck in cycles. But when God strips you of every false source, every counterfeit support system, that's when you find out what you're really made of. That's when you discover that your strength wasn't in them. It was in him. That your provision wasn't tied to a person. It was tied to his promise. It's not easy. Loss never is. But when you shift your perspective and see it through the lens of faith, you'll realize you didn't lose. You were liberated. You were set free from leaning on something temporary so you could stand firm in something eternal. And when God becomes your only source, you become unshakable. You stop fearing disconnection because you understand if God removes it, you didn't need it. If he took it, it wasn't your foundation. He's not subtracting to hurt you. He's subtracting to strengthen you, to remind you the source is still with you. Always was, always will be. Spiritual warriors walk alone. That's not just a phrase. It's a reality, a spiritual law, a sacred rhythm. When you're chosen, when you've been marked by purpose, the path you walk is narrow, intentional, and often lonely. Because what God gives to a warrior, he doesn't give to the crowd. What he reveals to the call, he doesn't explain to the comfortable. And the journey of the spiritual warrior isn't about popularity. It's about purity. It's about being trusted with vision so big, so heavy that no one else can carry it with you. There's a kind of walk that requires separation, not because you don't love people, but because you've been set apart. There's a difference between being liked and being chosen. When you're liked, people surround you. But when you're chosen, God starts pulling you away. And if you don't understand what he's doing, you'll start fighting against the very thing that's meant to prepare you. The warrior's path is not lined with comfort. It's lined with obedience. It's lined with discipline. It's lined with battles in the spirit that no one else can see. And you don't get to bring everyone with you, not because you're better than them, but because what you're carrying requires a different kind of focus, a different kind of strength. You can't be casual and carry a mantle. You can't be distracted and move in authority. So God starts stripping away everything that could weaken your mission, even good things, even familiar things. And it hurts because we were raised to think that success means being surrounded. But in the kingdom, success is about surrender. And sometimes surrender looks like walking alone. It looks like being misunderstood. It looks like being the only one in your circle with conviction, the only one who prays that way, the only one who says no when everyone else says yes, the only one who keeps going when others stop. But here's the secret. You're not really alone, because when you walk the path of the spiritual warrior, you're walking with divine backing. You're surrounded by angels. You're led by fire. You're held by grace. You're equipped by wisdom. And though you may look alone in the natural, in the spirit, you're never outnumbered. You carry heaven's power in your step. Being a spiritual warrior means accepting the weight of walking alone so others can one day be free. It means blazing trails, breaking generational cycles, speaking truth when it's uncomfortable, and loving even when it's not returned. It's not glamorous, it's gritty, but it's holy and it's necessary. You weren't built to blend in. You were built to lead. But leading spiritually means walking differently, talking differently, moving differently. And yes, walking alone, not because you're abandoned, but because you've been assigned. And when you're truly walking in that assignment, you'll find out something beautiful. Solitude isn't emptiness. It's alignment. And in that alignment, you become unstoppable. Approval is a trap. The more you chase it, the more you lose yourself. It seems harmless at first. Just wanting someone to say you're doing a good job, wanting people to see your value, appreciate your effort, acknowledge your growth. But before you know it, that desire becomes a need. That need becomes a dependency. And suddenly you're no longer living by conviction. You're living by consensus. You start measuring your worth by other people's reactions. You change your pace to match their comfort. You shrink your vision to keep their praise. And without even realizing it, you've built your identity around their approval. But here's the problem. People aren't inconsistent. One day they love you, the next they're silent. One moment they're cheering, the next they're criticizing. If your stability is rooted in their opinions, your life will feel like a roller coaster. Your confidence will rise and fall based on applause, but purpose cannot be lived that way. Destiny doesn't wait for validation, and the call on your life doesn't come with a popularity contest. When you live for approval, you'll start compromising truth. You'll start watering down your voice just to keep the peace. You'll hide your strength so others feel comfortable. You'll silence your boldness because someone might misunderstand you. But approval is a shallow reward. It feeds the ego, but starves the soul. It satisfies temporarily, but it can never sustain you in the long run. You'll always need more of it. And the more you need it, the more you'll be controlled by it. You can't walk in authority and still need permission. You can't fulfill your assignment and still be obsessed with acceptance. Approval is the trap that keeps you from obedience. It's the chain that keeps you from moving when God says move, because you're waiting for everyone else to be okay with your decision. You're checking to see if your boldness fits their box. You're trying to be anointed and accepted at the same time. But those two don't always mix. The oil costs too much to waste it on popularity. Some of the most powerful moves you'll ever make in life will be misunderstood. They'll be judged. They'll be criticized. And if you're not free from the trap of approval, you'll hesitate. You'll delay. You'll disobey. But when you finally let go of the need to be liked, something shifts. You move with boldness. You speak with clarity. You lead with power. Because you're not performing, you're fulfilling. Approval is fragile. Purpose is eternal. When you stop living for people's applause, you start hearing God's voice more clearly. When you release the need to be liked, you start becoming who you were created to be. Your freedom isn't in being celebrated. It's in being centered. It's in knowing that your worth isn't up for debate. It's rooted in something deeper than public opinion. It's rooted in divine identity. And once you're anchored in that, you can walk in rooms, face resistance, and still be unshaken because you finally understand their approval was never the source of your power. The assignment is personal. It wasn't given to a group chat. It wasn't sent as a collective invitation. It was spoken directly into your spirit, whispered into your soul in the quiet moments when no one else was around. And because it was given to you personally, it must be carried out personally. That means there are parts of your journey that no one else will understand. There will be seasons where you walk alone, not because something's wrong, but because something's right, because God is pulling you closer to the path only you can walk. One of the biggest traps is thinking you need everyone's agreement to move forward. But what you're carrying is sacred. It's unique. It's not up for debate. Not everyone will see it. Not everyone will get it. Some will question your decisions. Others will mislabel your silence. Some will walk away because your growth confronts their comfort. But you weren't called to be understood. You were called to be obedient. You weren't chosen to be liked. You were chosen to be faithful. The weight you feel isn't just pressure. It's purpose. It's the evidence of something bigger working inside of you. And when the assignment gets heavier, it's not a sign to quit. It's a sign that you're getting closer. But here's the truth. You can't delegate destiny. You can't outsource obedience. No one else can fast for you, believe for you, pray for you, or sacrifice for you in the way that your call requires. Others can support you, but they can't walk it out for you. The burden of the assignment rests on your shoulders for a reason. God trusted you with it. He appointed you for it. And he's equipping you to carry it. And yes, it gets lonely. Yes, it gets exhausting. But that's what makes it holy. Because when it's personal, it pushes you past performance. It pushes you past needing applause. It drives you deep into intimacy with God. It forces you to confront your weaknesses and stretch your faith. It builds you in ways a crowd never could. The public might see the results, but they'll never see the process. They won't see the tears, the early mornings, the moments of doubts, the internal battles. But that's okay, because the assignment was never about being seen. It was about being sent. Stop waiting for everyone to clap before you move. Stop looking around to see who's coming with you. Some paths are designed for your feet only. Some doors only open when you walk toward them alone. And when you finally embrace the solitude, when you finally lean into the silence, that's when the real power shows up. That's when the clarity hits. That's when the oil flows. Because now you're not just carrying a dream, you're carrying a divine mandate. And when God gives an assignment, he never gives it with a backup plan. It's personal. It's precise. It's purposeful. And it's yours. Walk it out with boldness. Walk it out with focus. Walk it out with fire. Because no one else was built to carry what he placed inside of you. So now you know this journey isn't about crowds, comfort, or convenience. It's about calling. It's about becoming. You were never meant to blend in. You were never designed to wait for consensus. You were created to move with conviction, to walk in divine authority, to execute the assignment even if nobody else claps, nobody else comes, nobody else understands. Because the truth is the real ones don't need company to obey. The real ones don't need confirmation to start. The real ones don't flinch when the path gets narrow. They lean in. This is your moment to rise, to stop waiting, stop explaining, stop apologizing, and walk like you were sent. Speak like you were chosen. Move like you've already won. Because when you finally accept that doing it alone isn't a curse, but a calling, you become unstoppable, untouchable, unshakable. You tap into a power that doesn't come from people. It comes from purpose. And once you taste that, you'll never settle for surface level living again. So go ahead, do it alone, and watch what heaven does when obedience meets boldness.